Hey everyone, before we get into this episode, I just want to give a quick update. Right now, we're currently having some technical difficulties when it comes to getting all our video files organized. So, in this episode, it's going to be audio only, no video. In the future, we're expecting every episode to have video, but I figured I'd just give you guys a warning before this one gets started. Welcome into the Off Brand Sports Podcast. Today we're doing some more contender and pretender rundowns, this time with the Houston Rockets and the Tampa Bay Lightning. But before we do that, we are also going to issue some retractions because on our last episode we recorded and 24 hours later everything we said was wrong. So, Marshall, you want to kick us off here? What are the first things you wanted to talk about?
So before we get into the Bubba Wallace issue, I know that's a very popular topic right now. We were kind of talking about the Nuggets, and although we did say that they're probably pretenders, there is an X factor in Nikola Jokic. I know Karim was definitely
high on the Nuggets
in the opposition. Yeah. But literally 24 hours after we recorded, Nikola Jokic came out that he was positive. Him and his wife were both positive for COVID-19. He was saying that he is experiencing minor symptoms, and the test happened a week ago, so he should be allowed back in the United States within the next week, which is pretty cool. But in my opinion, it's like maybe he was getting in shape because he thought that this could be happening. It's like, I mean, that's probably a hot take. But, I mean, at the same time, it's like...
He's ready.
Dude, it's like, he's like, yo, I'm going back to the United States where COVID is totally bonkers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to get in shape just to make sure I'm not going to die from this whole thing. So.
I
mean, to be fair, like, he's still in good shape. So hopefully when he gets over the COVID, he'll still be in good shape. So it's not like, oh, now Jokic is going to suck. He'll probably still be better if he was going to be better, he'll probably still be better. It's just there's a little bit of a roadblock for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I honestly think he's... Okay, obviously, I don't want to make just, like, claims that the virus isn't affecting people. I know it has. I'm just saying, Nikola Jokic, he's an athlete. He's an elite athlete playing in the top league of basketball in the entire world, and he's tearing. It's pretty safe to assume he's going to be okay. I hope he's okay. I hope everyone's okay. But
yeah.
I mean, he's either asymptomatic or just experiencing minor symptoms. He's going to be perfectly fine. One thing, it's like the NBA and Adam Silver has come out and said, like, guys, we have to be expecting these positive tests. It's going to happen inside of our bubble, and this is not going to be the first time this happens. But if one positive test comes up on a team, there needs to be protocols in which the entire operation does not get derailed. And that's kind of the whole idea behind, like, okay, yeah, Jokic test is positive. And Bogdanovic also tested positive on the Pacers. But just because there's a couple... And in my opinion, I think that the positive tests that are going to be happening in the next few weeks when people are traveling and getting back to their organizations. But if the NBA players can kind of, keep their wieners in the pants for, like the time that they're in the bubble and just, like, actually be inside the bubble. And I think once we get this operation running, it should be fine. But the problem is it's keeping, them not going out and being naughty. So
yeah, they gotta stay there. They gotta stay in the bubble as much as they can. There's always going to be positive tests. They just need to have minimal positive tests. If a couple guys get corona, unless it's absolute superstars, then it's not going to be a huge deal.
Are you calling Jokic
when a bunch
not
of guys
a
start getting
superstar?
corona in full teams.
that is
Well,
very
Jokic
true.
isn't in the bubble yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
They don't have any. There's nothing that started to call off. But like, when whole teams start getting it during the playoffs, then you have to start to really consider what this playoff is worth. But for now, hopefully, we're gonna be all right.
I'm sure that's the concern most of these players have, because I mean, their families are gonna be in that same bubble. If someone is just being stupid and goes out and catches something and it spreads throughout, like their family's at risk. I'm sure people are gonna bring their mothers or fathers, just kind of like now. But when you're forced in a bubble with people, I mean, how many people are gonna get brought onto this into Disney? I gotta assume,
few,
more
honestly.
than 500, more than 600. That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Just assume.
They got to get full teams, staff, coaches, even media, so that they can put these on TV. There's going to be quite a bit.
Well,
I think honestly. Oh, go ahead, Marshall.
I was just gonna say my main concern is about the staff of the teams and the coaches that are a little bit older in age, that are in that prime, age that it can be very serious to them. The players right now, I am not concerned about. And same thing with all the leagues that are resuming. I mean, these guys are supposed to be the top of the top athletes that are in their prime physical conditions. So my concern is not necessarily the athletes getting the virus, but then just older people or just like their relatives if they go back home after the bubble, anything like that. Like these athletes, I'm no doctor, but COVID should not be affecting them other than just minor symptoms. I mean,
yeah, they'll get sick, but they shouldn't be having real issues about it. I agree with you. I think really you're looking at head coaches, staff members that are on the older side. I almost think there needs to be some kind of separate, like even more serious bubble where you're working with any of those guys on the staff that are over 60 and you're like, all right, everyone else is isolating over here, but we're going to you're going to get your own floor in the hotel, and we're going to keep all of you are under a much stricter lockdown because you're much more at risk. I think you almost need to separate them even within the bubble to a certain extent.
And obviously I'm not wanting this to turn into just like a COVID biohazard that everyone's running around with COVID and everything. But at the same time, like I was saying, it's like, dude, these players should be in like physical condition. Getting COVID for them should not be an issue, but yes, it is an issue for the older staff members and coaches and bringing it back to their family members that may be more susceptible to the severity of the disease. So
yeah. All right, so let's transition into Bubba Wallace. We said a lot of nice things about him in our last podcast, and some of those may have been a little bit misinformed now that some new info has come out. Zach, why don't you kick this one off for us?
Well, I guess I don't want to get too far into this and what it really means outside of what we're talking about here. But if one thing was true that Bubba Wallace said that I want us to remember, it was like we don't want to forget that show of unity at the NASCAR track.
yeah,
That's one thing that was good. And obviously, other than that, Bubba seems to have lied. And yeah, I'll just leave it there. I mean, I don't want to take it too far.
Yeah, I agree. There's not too much to say. We were told it was a noose. It was not a noose. It was a rope that was meant to be there. Bubba himself wasn't the one that discovered it. It was a staff member, and then also the same staff member that reported it without Bubba's knowledge at that point. But it does seem that he knew. He knew that it wasn't a noose and kind of went along with the story to kind of push his own agenda, which, to be fair, it's a justifiable agenda. I understand why it's tempting to kind of use that story to say, hey, racism still exists and it's still a problem, which it is. This just doesn't seem to have been a case of it. So I don't want to rag on Bubba too hard, but
it's so hard to talk about this without talking, like Zach was trying to refrain from talking about the deeper meaning. I think it was the whole thing is just so fishy. Not
really quick, it was a noose.
It was?
Yes. The thing.
Have you seen the photos, Marshall?
That's
yes,
what's fishy.
Zach.
Have they
No,
released
but the
photos?
thing is a noose, guys. A noose has a different underlying or has a definition that is a lot different than the underlying meaning of a noose.
Okay.
A noose is
yes, technically,
the
it was a
FBI
rope
even
that could have
came
been
out and
used to
said
hang
that it was a
someone.
noose.
Okay,
Guys,
then that's even worse. That's even worse.
Okay, I'm not trying to defend any sides
Okay.
here, but it was a noose. The NASCAR and the FBI both came out and said that it was a noose. Whether or not, guys, like a noose is a lot more than just something that can.
Of course, yeah.
I'm not gonna,
Right.
people can interpret what I'm.
But I
But
wish they would have
I guess
described
by
it
the
more
strict
into
definition,
the-
technically it was a noose. It wasn't a threat, really, is
No,
what seems
okay,
to be
yes, absolutely.
the situation.
But
I
with
wish
all
they
this-
would described it by its use. It was a handle. It's not a noose.
It is a noose, but it was a noose that was used for a handle. Guys, Zach, that's what you're not getting right here.
No, I'm getting it.
No,
It's
I
just like when
agree.
you
I don't
use that
think that-
word, you're implying
Yes.
certain things, and that's why Bubba used it.
I understand where both of you are coming from. Like, Marshall, yes, technically by the strictest definition, it was a noose.
Right,
but
and that I can't disagree
it's
with.
misleading to call it a
Very,
noose. You
very.
know when you call it a noose, there's certain connotations.
Especially coming from a black, the
Yes.
only full-time
Yeah. And
black
that's the
NASCAR
issue.
driver.
See, but I mean,
okay, I understand
yeah.
that.
I feel like NASCAR also just like benefited. I don't know. There's just so much fishy stuff going on. It's really hard to interpret whether or not it was like planned from Bubba's team or if it was planned from NASCAR. I don't know. I'm having a hard time interpreting everything
thing-
just because it seems surreal.
Yeah, there might there's also just other information, Like we might not have the full
Exactly.
story. What's going to come out 24 hours after we record
Yeah.
this pod that's going to make us issue more attractions.
Seriously.
But
though.
So the thing that's the
Yeah.
most fishy to me is, yes, it was not a hate crime towards him specifically.
Or
And
at all.
The FBI came out. The FBI, okay, yeah. The FBI came out and said that it was a noose, but it was not a hate crime. NASCAR said the same thing. And Bubba Wallace, I do not agree with his comments that he made yesterday, but today he, retracted some of his. Well, like what Zach was saying earlier, I do like what Bubba Wallace was saying about how NASCAR has taken steps in the right forward, banning the Confederate flag, which should have been done a long time ago. But at the same time, it's a little bit fishy to me, like Karim was saying. This is a very new story and a developing story, and we're going to have more news tomorrow.
Right. Yeah.
But with my information right now, yes, this was a rope that was used to pull down a garage. And it's been there since October of last year, according to evidence that other drivers have taken pictures of it and, recorded it as being the rope that pulls down the garage a long time ago. However, why do you think that Bubba Wallace was put in that specific garage? Because all the other garages had normal ropes. That's my main question
Okay.
behind all of this.
so you're saying there might be it wasn't direct. No one directly is like, I'm going to put a noose in his room, but they're like, hey, let's put him in the one with a rope that could be misinterpreted. I mean,
That's just like the thing that
I don't know.
is-
I feel like that's
Yeah, I think that's
a little bit of a conspiracy,
Yes,
but hey,
conspiratorial.
again, we don't know everything, so
But at the same
maybe?
time, is that just a fat coincidence? Because, dude, all the other garages have normal ropes. This was the one garage that had a rope that was fashioned as a noose.
this
And
is
the fact
where
that
I
the
go into
only
the
black
fishiness. Yeah.
driver ends up in that garage is what's very fishy to me, guys.
Okay, I don't want this to turn into a conspiracy theory podcast.
Yeah.
I'm just like NASCAR almost automatically. The day that happened, they had that unity display, which was a beautiful display. I don't think it cheapens it. I think, Bubba's been outspoken about racial inequality for a long time. I don't think that's any different. But automatically, if you look at their Twitter profile, they immediately just start talking about oh, for any new fans, here's how NASCAR works. So it just seems
Yeah.
so surreal. Just one day they take a stand, they make the unity display, and then floods of fans are coming in.
You want to hear conspiracy theory? I'll just go for it real quick. All right,
All right, let's hear
NASCAR
your theory.
has really old fans. In
That's not a
NASCAR,
conspiracy theory.
that's not. But this is a conspiracy theory. They stage the Bubba Watson incident. Bubba, what's his name again?
Bubba
Wallace.
Bubba
Bubba
Wallace.
Watson
Sorry,
is
Bubba
We're
the
mixing
Wallace
up golfers
incident.
and NASCAR drivers a
I
little
know.
bit.
I always get confused.
Easy to do.
Bubba Wallace. They stage the whole incident for the whole for the photo op. so that they can bring in younger, more progressive fans.
No,
Okay, dude, and that's perfectly fair to
I
assume.
mean, maybe.
who knows? That's the
That's
whole
a
point. Is
reasonable
that
theory. I mean,
we're not being shown anything. We're not being it's just 2020.
And that's just a conspiracy
It's just
theory.
2020. Yeah, I there's so much going on, man. I don't know.
There is so much
Yeah.
going on.
So, before we move on here, I just have a couple closing thoughts. Basically, all I want to say is, if we don't know the full story, so maybe there are certain things that will come out and maybe justify this a little bit. If it truly was staged, then I hope that this doesn't cheapen some of the good that Bubba Wallace has done, because he has done some good, and I hope this doesn't tarnish that too much. Any last words from any of you guys, like, before we move into our next segment here?
There's just a lot more information that needs to come out
we're in the dark right now making statements, and I'm sure we might just bite this tomorrow when some other tweet comes out.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I mean, really quick, like Billy had mentioned earlier, Bubba Wallace did not discover this quote-unquote news. It was his crew members, and that is another thing that's very fishy, is the fact that his crew members was like, Bubba, there's a noose in your garage, and then there's like a fat story that comes out before any of the evidence come out. Like the NASCAR comes out and says, yes, there was a noose that was found in Bubba Wallace's garage. The next day, FBI takes 24 hours to investigate, and then it's like, oh wait, no,
it's from October. I don't know
the
how
tide
they
has
determined that. Man,
dude. So that's just this whole situation is.
Zach's not having it.
I'm not liking these conspiracy theories. I think you guys are digging a little bit too deep right there.
Wait,
I don't think
Yeah.
there. I think this is the end of the story, and there is no more. And the FBI took 24 hours because it's so cut and dry. Obviously, not a noose, a handle for the garage door.
It's a noose.
All right. Fair enough.
I'm not playing a semantic game, but we can move on.
All right, yes. We'll save the conspiracies for our top 10 podcast. You guys can watch that one if you like our getting into the conspiracies here. But let's move into our betting segment.
Wait, really quick. There's another.
What's that?
No. It's not even on that. There's a piece of news that we should probably touch on. Is that baseball is coming back?
Oh yeah,
baseball is
that's
coming
right.
back, and it's going to be the first
Guys,
start
I'm
back.
dead.
Yeah,
It got lost in the fog here.
That is right.
yeah. Really quick. Baseball's coming
another
back.
thing we have to retract, because last episode we were bagging on them for screwing it up, and now they're going to be
Wow,
back.
literally
I
you're
still
0
think
for
they.
3.
I still think they've screwed it up.
little bit.
They have
I think a lot of
60-game season.
Yeah, a
Yeah,
60-game
nice.
season, but I still think they've screwed it up because they're going to be competing with the NHL and NBA playoffs when they come back. I think they screwed it up hard, but baseball is coming back, so
That's good.
We get to watch baseball. We'll have something to bet on here soon.
Thank God.
Still a month.
Rock-
but-
I mean,
dropping
I'm a
every
big baseball
game.
fan. I'll be watching baseball. So.
I'll be watching baseball. I'm not going to be winning any bets because I still don't know that much about baseball. But here soon we'll have real bets. So let's talk about our bets for this week. So at current, this time our bets haven't played out like they had last week, which was kind of weird. But I'm 1-2. Zach is 0-2 with 1 pending, and Marshall is 0-3. Could be doing a little bit better, but this week we like our bets a little bit more. Marshall, why don't you go ahead and give us yours first?
Okay, so I'm done taking these hot take bets, these low odds bets. Even though this one is not necessarily even in my realm of, I'm a golf fan, but not that big of a golf fan. But I am taking Jordan Spieth, John Ram, and Xander Schauffele. I don't even know how to pronounce his last name.
Souffle, I think, but I don't know.
Yeah, like I said,
Just say anything.
we need sports. We need sports to come, actual sports to come back before we can actually, be credited for these bets. But all 3 of them to make the cut in the Travelers Championship at 175, plus 175. I do like these odds. All 3 of them have been playing very good golf. So yeah, that's my and we're putting $10 on this because I was granted an extra $5 because my bet did not work out last week.
Yeah, his NASCAR insurance. Zach also had the NASCAR insurance, so he is putting a $10 bet as well. And what is yours on, Zach?
I got Jordan Spieth at plus 800 just to finish top 5. Golf is not my sport, but I know Jordan Spieth is a good golfer, so let's hope he can do it.
All right. And then I'm betting on UFC, a sport I know even less about. But I found a DraftKings odds boost at plus 210 for Poirier, Green, and Perry, all to win their fights. Every single one of them is at least a plus 200 favorite, and I'm getting positive odds in them all winning. So the likely outcome, obviously there's definitely some room for an upset, but if everything goes as planned, they should all win, which plus 210, solid odds for that. I like it. So I'm definitely taking that one, and hopefully I can get out of the negative here this week.
Hopefully we can all get out of the negative here.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, actually I think we all can if we all win.
We're not.
All right.
Yeah.
Which would be nice. All right, so that's it for the bets this week. Let's get into our deep dives. We got some teams to talk about, the Rockets and the Lightning. Last week we did NBA first, so let's do that again. Let's go with the Rockets. Some initial thoughts. What do you think, Karim? Are the Rockets any good?
Okay, obviously you got James Harden on the squad. Dude's
Yeah.
a beast. You can't discount how good James Harden is when he is balling out. You can criticize
Absolutely.
how he plays. You can criticize the fact that he forces the foul every shot he takes. Whatever. He's still putting up mad numbers every game. That being said,
Yeah.
I really, other than Gordon, Harden, Russ, obviously, I mean, they do not have that deep of a squad. I don't think they can compete with any of the top 4 West teams, let alone Milwaukee or Boston even. I mean, I'm sure Boston would give them a fight, but just because James Harden's on the squad, I'm just not high on the Rockets. I think that they just got some star power and no one behind it.
Yeah, I agree. I think they've got Harden and Westbrook, and I don't think there's a ton of talent behind them. I think they're a top-heavy team, and I think that's definitely going to hurt them when they run into those better teams out west.
Yeah, they still got a couple players in that depth chart, like P.J. Tucker and Austin Rivers, but to me they're really missing that Clint Capella kind of guy, that grittiness that he could bring along. They're probably 5th on my list in the West if I had to rank them. They're not. They're probably a pretender for me.
Marshall, what are your thoughts?
I guess I'm a little bit different than you guys. For one, D'Antoni likes to play a defensive style of game. He has a squad other than, Harden and Westbrook that can play a very defensive style of game. Although they are running a very small ball lineup,
Dude,
once you get Harden and Westbrook healthy back for the playoffs, I say that they have a higher chance than the Nuggets
my
winning the
God.
championship.
That's what. No.
Dude, I'm sorry, but Harden and Westbrook both are bigger stars than Jokic, in my opinion.
Okay,
They do have
And
more star power than the Nuggets. That's
but
fair.
that's what the NBA playoffs rely on.
I agree and I don't agree. I think they definitely have more star power. I don't know if it's a benefit. Like, Jokic is a team player. Jokic can pick out the ball to any of his players whenever he wants. He doesn't have to look at them. I mean, Russ is a beast. Harden's a beast. I mean, their game, it was looking pretty good for a second there. It just goes in and out. I wasn't really high on Houston all season.
Okay, but listen here. When was the last time an NBA champion was crowned relying on depth alone?
I mean, you don't have to have depth alone, but you have to have depth. You can have star power and depth. It's
Okay,
not one or
but
the other.
I would argue that LeBron with his Cleveland teams did not have depth.
Yeah, but that's LeBron.
Right, but
Sure, and
And that was
LeBron
management
is one of the
issues.
best players in basketball history.
they
Absolutely.
would bring him nobody.
But Harden is probably the most prolific offensive player in the game right now. If he gets hot, he can he himself alone can take down anyone, in my personal opinion. But that's a little bit different. I do not see them going to the championship, but I do see them as having higher odds than the Nuggets just right now.
Okay, and you called the Nuggets a pretender, so it's still, like, it's not like you're saying that the Rockets are definitely a contender. We'll get into our verdicts in a little bit. So what do you guys think that Westbrook brings to the table? I know we've talked a lot about Harden. Do you think
he's the triple-double machine. He could do it all, really.
Yeah.
His passing game has stepped up in the last few years. He's shown in Houston that he can pass the ball more than he would in Oklahoma. But then again, in Oklahoma, he didn't really have any help either. Exactly. It was really just him doing it himself, which we know he could do, obviously. So that is a big advantage for the Houston Rockets. But, yeah, that's about.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you.
Their potential is maxed out for
I
me.
love both.
I don't think they could be better than the Nuggets.
Yeah.
Sorry, Karim, go ahead.
I love both players, man. I think Russ, he's just so explosive. He's so fun to watch. Harden also can just. Like Marshall said, he's the most offensively prolific player in the game right now. But I don't. There has to be something else. I mean, who were they even starting, other than?
I mean,
right, and Harden's playoff performances have been abysmal throughout the years. Just awful. Not showing up at all. Coming out with like 5 points.
I would disagree. Dude, a couple years ago, if Chris Paul did not get hurt, the Rockets would have been in the NBA championship. They took the Warriors to Game 7.
Yeah.
And that was with Chris Paul and pretty much just James Harden.
Right.
And in my opinion, I think Russ is a better player today than Chris Paul. Although they are playing a small ball lineup, which is going to be very interesting to see, especially since D'Antoni is a very defensive-minded coach. I don't know necessarily how he's going to tackle that. Dude, they have one center on their, they have a few,
one 7-footer.
Yeah, on their entire roster. But if they could figure out how to just pour on the points in comparison to their opponents at any given time, I think the Rockets can be at least a Western Conference Finals team.
Yeah, okay. I definitely don't disagree. Oh, sorry, Billy, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Zach.
Yeah, I definitely don't disagree that they could be a finals contender. I just think the Nuggets are a little bit ahead of them.
Yeah. I might just be biased. Okay. Sorry.
I don't think we are, because the Nuggets have the depth, though. The Nuggets have a little bit more depth.
Well, the Nuggets also finished as a higher seed.
Yeah, that's also
so
true.
That's one argument in their favor. So let's go around. Let's give our verdicts: contender or pretender. Marshall, let's start with you.
This is a tricky one for me. I'm gonna say pretender. Even though I was high on them, I do think that they're a Western Conference Finals team. I don't see them getting over either the LA teams. I think there's only 3 contenders in the league for me, like I've said on previous podcasts. I don't think the Rockets are one of them, but it would not surprise me if my opinion was wrong.
Fair enough. All right, Karim, what do you think?
I mean, I think they're a pretender. I think when it comes to closing out those games, I think there's just not going to be the team, the depth that's needed. I don't know. Houston's just been the bane of my existence for like 3 years, so.
Really quickly, I'd just like to ask, how come you guys see the Nuggets as a bigger contender than the Rockets?
I think the Nuggets are deeper.
Yeah, one, the bench. 2, they,
guys
like
coming
Billy
off
said,
the
they
bench are a lot better on the Nuggets.
The bench, when they come out, they still keep the defensive touch.
Okay, but
Jokic and Murray definitely aren't Harden and Westbrook, but I think that you're talking significant upgrades in just the rest of the starting 5 as well as the bench.
Okay, but like we have mentioned on previous podcasts, in the playoffs, the stars play absolutely exuberant minutes.
Right.
I don't see Harden and Westbrook going off the bench for more than 15 minutes a game. If they are actually giving themselves a chance to win the NBA championship, Harden and Westbrook are gonna be on the court as much as physically possible. And I feel like if Harden and Westbrook are on the floor as much as possible, even this is kind of the conversation that happens with load management. Teams are starting to load manage because they're starting to prepare for the playoffs. And this 3-month break was kind of the ultimate load management. And like I said, both Harden and Westbrook, oh my God, dude, sorry, my dog. Both Harden and Westbrook have been MVPs just in the last few years. If you have two MVPs on the court together that are just interchangeable, whether or not they work together, we haven't even seen that they work together very well yet.
Exactly.
But if they can figure it out in the playoffs with, like, dude, we've also mentioned this, that with MPJ, it's like it's a new season going forward for MPJ, theoretically, because you have this time off. If Harden and Westbrook can figure out how to play together, I think the Rockets are scary.
I mean, yeah, that's the whole point, is that if they can learn how to play together. I mean, how many shots does Russ take, or historically at OKC, when he didn't have anyone? Dude was heaving anything up all the time. Harden also heaves everything up. I mean, I just think the Nuggets are a deeper team, and that gives them the edge, because if Murray is gassed, you can sit Murray down, you can put Monte Morris in, and you could be confident that Monte Morris is not going to be a liability. And then Murray can catch his breath, get his legs back under him, and he can go back and play while everyone else is getting drained. A bench is so...
fair enough. You might not get 45 minutes of him, but you'll get 35, and he'll be better in those 35 minutes because he's not gassed. But let's move into Zach. What is your verdict? Contender or pretender?
I think I touched on it a little bit earlier in the show, but I am choosing pretender here. While I respect the superstardom of Westbrook and Harden, Karim, you've touched on it a bunch. The depth of the Nuggets is what takes them over the next level for me. But even though they're both pretenders, the Nuggets are still better.
Yeah, I agree. I'm also going to call them a pretender. I also think that the Nuggets are slightly better. But for me, it's like, we talked with the Nuggets. They need one more star. I think the Rockets are a little bit different. They could use one more star, or they could use quite a few other role players. Yeah. But they're definitely not a championship team to me. I think they're a couple steps down. But we're going to go ahead and move on here to the Tampa Bay Lightning. This is an interesting team, to say the least. I mean, talk about star power. They've got Nikita Kucherov, Steven Stamkos, Braden Point, Victor Hedman, Ryan McDonough, Vasilevsky in net. The list goes on. What do you guys think of the Lightning? Initial impressions. Karim, we'll start with you.
I mean, you got arguably the best winger in the NHL right now playing on your team, with a bunch of other top 30 players in the next coming lines underneath him. Just the offensive firepower is insane. And then pair that with Vasilevsky in net, where he can... I mean, when he's hot, man. So, they're a scary team. I hope they get knocked out early just so the Avs have a chance.
Yeah, it's a monster. I want him out.
Yeah.
All right, Zach, what do you think of the Lightning?
They're probably one of my top teams in the NHL. Definitely are the top team in the NHL. And for me, one player a lot of people forget about on the Lightning is what's his name? God damn it, I forgot him.
We'll move into Marshall. And we'll come back.
Oh no,
to
it's Alex Killorn.
Oh, you got it.
It's Alex Killorn.
Oh yeah, solid winger.
Yeah, he's a solid winger. A lot of people forget about him. Not that the Lightning really need an X factor because they are so stacked, but this is a guy that I think has taken good steps in the past. He's 30 years old and can still play. I think he's actually kind of trade bait in the future for them as well.
Yeah, definitely a guy that gets lost in kind of all that star power over there, but a real solid player. Marshall, what do you think of the Lightning?
Another guy that kind of gets lost in the mix is Anthony Cirelli. In my opinion, he's a consistent Selke nominee.
I think the best third-line center in hockey.
Yeah. I mean, you guys have already touched on it. This team is loaded with offensive firepower, but like we were just talking about the Rockets, unlike the Rockets, they have depth for days here. I mean, even their second goalie, like Curtis McElhaney, is probably a starter on some bottom NHL teams. So they do have that 1-2 punch at goalie. They have the absolute offensive superstardom that you need to, take it over the top, and they have a very solid defense, starting with, in my opinion, the best defenseman in hockey. This team is, I'm just going to go out and say it, is my Stanley Cup favorite this year. Especially,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, especially getting knocked out like in the fashion that they did last season in the first round. This team is out for
it's going to be UVA,
in my opinion. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, I think they have the best goalie in the league. I think they have the best defenseman in the league, and I think they have the best winger in the league. And then they've also got what I think is 2 top 10 to 15 centers. So the star power is insane. Talk about depth. I mean, I want to make fun of them a little bit here for giving up a first-round pick for Barclay Goodrow, but if your first-round pick, if your fourth liner is worth a first-round pick, that's a solid fourth liner. Although I don't think he really is worth a first-round pick.
I mean, if he can bring you a cup, if he's that X factor for a cup, then good on them. But
yeah,
I guess I got a question for Billy about the Lightning, though, real quick. If you comparing defenses from our last podcast, Tampa Bay and Carolina, they're both so stacked. I mean, who do you think's the better defense?
Sergachev, Shattenkirk. I still like Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
I think when you've got Hedman and McDonough, that top pairing maybe slightly edges the Hurricanes, because I mean I like Hedman more than either, but I think Slavin and Hamilton are both slightly better than McDonough, so it's close. But with Hedman, I'll give the edge to the Lightning there. Second pairing, if you're comparing those, I'm gonna give a slight edge to the Canes. Brady Shea I think is better than either of Sergachev or Shattenkirk, but I also think that's close. And then talk about the third pairing. I think that's where the Canes take this away. You know, Sammy Vatanen and whoever else you decide to play, whether it's Edmondson, Hayden Fleury, whatever. I think they're both better than Cernak and Shen. So definitely this is another elite defense core, but I'm going to give the edge to the Canes here. What are your thoughts on that?
It was really close to me too, but yeah, you're right. You just brought it up. That third line is what really differentiates these two defenses. Really, Carolina could cycle like 8D if they wanted to.
Yeah,
a couple of these defensemen on here. Zach Bogosian's been around the league a bunch. I don't think he's really a reliable defenseman at this point in his career. But yeah, like you guys said, the Hurricanes are stacked up. They could play 8 defense if they needed to. So I'd give
the Lightning's defense is definitely not a liability.
Oh, definitely not. Not even a
With
little
the
bit.
Hurricanes at the best in the league. The Lightning are right up there.
That was me comparing
top
7th defenseman.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm just saying here. The Lightning's D is absolutely phenomenal still. Especially just the fact that you have Victor Hedman, like I said, my consistent Norris Trophy winner. Even though he's probably not going to win it this year, I think Victor Hedman's the best defenseman in the league. If I were to start a franchise with one defenseman, it would be Victor Hedman.
I'd pick Cale Makar, but I love Cale Makar. Like I said, he's one of my 2 favorite players in sports. So,
I mean, fair enough.
All right.
Yes, but Victor Hedman has been there and done that.
Yeah, he's definitely more experienced. Today, he's the better player, but I think Makar might pass him, but we'll have to wait and see a couple years on that one. Let's get into our verdicts on the Lightning. Karim, contender or pretender?
Dude, yeah, I don't know how you don't say it. They're a contender.
Is this an easy one?
Yeah,
This is a very easy one.
I don't think I have to say anything. Just
Nothing more to elaborate on. Zach,
my God.
contender or pretender?
Yeah, clearly a contender. Clearly.
Guys, I'm going with pretender.
Hot takes. They don't show it in the playoffs. So.
They were my Stanley Cup winner in our Avalanche podcast bracket.
Yeah.
But no, I'm just saying they're a pretender. Psych.
I agree. All on the same page here. I mean, how do you? Is there even an argument for the Lightning as a pretender? Yes, they did lose in the first round in a sweep last year. I don't think that repeats. Like
That's just more fuel
They're-
to the fire.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think they're gonna come out angry. They're the most talented team
And
in the
I mean,
NHL.
I think their windows.
most people would
Yeah,
agree.
I think their windows closing. I think they know that. I think they're gonna bounce.
Yeah, I think this is the easiest verdict we've had so far on the show. The Lightning are a contender.
What?
Before we close out the show today, any last bits you guys want to touch on?
Really quick, I'd just like to touch on. There's going to be a lot of NHL teams in this process that are contenders on our eyes, at least in comparison to our NBA contenders. So
Yeah, definitely. We touched on it last pod. The NHL takes a lot more luck, which means there's more contenders. So definitely, like it's easier to call a team a contender in the NHL, a league where lower seeds win.
Right.
Zach or Karim, last thoughts?
Well, I guess also adding on to that, in the NHL, it's not as star-driven as the NBA is.
Yeah.
So that kind
Yeah.
of that kind of plays a factor into it as
I
well.
don't think McDavid.
because you're
yeah.
always cycling,
Mhm.
you're always
Mhm.
cycling guys. Like
Yeah, you talked about James Harden playing 45 minutes at night.
That doesn't
Probably
happen.
the best player in the Lightning.
McDavid's not going to be
Might
playing.
play 22.
Yeah.
If he
might
does,
play
he's
half
a
that.
liability out there. So
Yeah. Definitely, yeah, you're playing less minutes. All right, and Karim, any final thoughts here?
I don't think, man.
All right, so let's go ahead and get out of here for today. We'll have 2 new teams to talk about next week. If you haven't seen our thoughts, I know we talked quite a bit about them, just referring to them, the Canes and the Lightning. You can check out our last episode where we did that. Find us SoundCloud, sorry, not SoundCloud, but iTunes and Spotify or YouTube, great places to watch us. And we'll see you in our next episode.